Hello, everyone. I'm going to try the glasses. We'll see if the fogging already happened. Pandemic times. Well, welcome. And first, I'd like to start with a land acknowledgement. The original stewards of the land upon which Naropa University's campuses sit are the Ute, Cheyenne, Arapaho, Apache, and others. Naropa University respectfully acknowledges these peoples and the numerous tribal nations linked to this land. This land served as a home, spiritual center, gathering place, and site of healing for many indigenous peoples before us, and will continue to do so for generations. In our acknowledgement to the original stewards, we commit to creating and maintaining a sustainable relationship to the land on which we learn, and to take action towards right relations with Native peoples for a just future. Good afternoon, Naropa community. My name is Jeremy Moore, and I'm honored to serve as the Associate Dean of Students. And today I have the privilege of emceeing the celebration of the start of a new academic year, also known as Convocation. Thank you, yeah. I feel a strong resonance at present to the energy of new beginnings. Last week, myself and a team of my very talented colleagues presented our first in-person new student welcome program in over 16 months, and we are excited to welcome our several hundred new undergraduate and graduate students into our community. I've seen many of your faces today. It's great to see you. We are also excited to welcome back our continuing students to classes, to involvements, and to new opportunities. In the almost 6 months since I began my role, 6 months already, here at Naropa, there has been this energy of new beginnings. Learning to navigate, to lead, to collaborate, and to connect remotely, and more recently, meeting new colleagues and community members for the first time in person. And to continue to reintroduce myself to my surroundings and working to root myself like the towering sycamores just a short distance from us outside. I've really been inspired by those sycamores every time I come to campus. We continue to navigate this journey now at the start of a new semester together, regardless of our physical location, whether here in person or with our community members leading and learning remotely. I know some of them are on the camera right now watching us from afar. Whether this is from Dubai or to the beautiful Pacific Northwest and everything in between. As we continue together, I invite us to think about how we can create space and grace for ourselves and for one another as we encounter challenges, as we may encounter challenges, sometimes collectively, in our days and months ahead. With that, I'd like to welcome my colleague Betsy Bloom, assistant professor and co-chair of the teacher licensure program, to offer the opening bow and invocation.
Thanks, Jeremy. Hi, everyone. So let's start with any practice that brings us fully into presence. So that might be a long inhale and a matching exhale. Or I see everyone's preparing already. It might be the Naropa bow. So I was told to give a brief description in case there are people new to the bow. So the bow is a Naropa tradition of pausing, feeling our embodiment, and acknowledging everyone in the room with us by bowing into the space and coming fully into the present moment and community. So if you'd like to join me, we'll bow together. So I invite you to do a brief grounding practice with me. You might start by feeling your feet on the ground, feeling yourself held by the chair beneath you and the ground beneath the chair and the Cheyenne, Ute, and Arapaho land beneath the ground, and really feeling into that sense of being held and supported. If you'd like, you can take a moment to turn inward and close your eyes or just rest your gaze gently in the space in front of you. Feel the air against your skin and take a long, slow, deep breath. With the next inhale, sending yourself gratitude for getting here today and for persevering through anything you had to overcome to be here and start this educational journey this year. So I want to start by, for the invocation, I happened upon these words just a few days ago, the words of Dr. Bayo Akumalafe, whose work I was introduced to by the amazing Carla Burns, Professor Carla Burns. So Dr. Bayo Akumalafe is an author, celebrated speaker, and teacher. His bio describes that his vocation goes beyond justice and speaking truth to power, to opening up other spaces of power with, and queering fond formulations and configurations of hope. So this is a foreword by Dr. Bayo Akumalafe. Dear traveler, I am quite confident that even as the oceans boil and the hurricanes beat violently against our once safe shores, and the air sweats with the heat of impending doom, and our fists protest the denial of climate justice, that there is a path to take that has nothing to do with victory or defeat, a place we do not yet know the coordinates to, a question we do not yet know how to ask. The point of the departed arrow is not merely to pierce the bullseye and carry the trophy. The point of the arrow is to sing the wind and remake the world in the brevity of flight. There are things we must do, sayings we must say, thoughts we must think, that look nothing like the images of success that have so thoroughly possessed our visions of justice. May this new decade be remembered as the decade of the strange path. This new semester be the semester of the strange path, of the third way, of the broken binary, of the traversal disruption, the kairotic moment, the post-human movement for emancipation, the gift of disorientation that opens up new places of power and of slow limbs. May this decade bring more than just solutions, more than just a future. May it bring words we don't know yet, and temporalities we have not yet inhabited. And may we be visited so thoroughly and met in wild places so overwhelmingly that we are left undone, ready for composting, ready for the impossible. Welcome to the decade of the fugitive. Thank you.
Okay, now I would like to welcome Chuck Leaf, president of Naropa University, to speak.
I don't think I can top that. So usually, this is going to be tough. But welcome, everybody. Really delighted to see you all with us in PAC, and really delighted at those of you who are joining us from around the world. This is Naropa's 48th Convocation Day. And yeah. And this is a day for almost a half a century that Naropa students, faculty, staff, members of the Board of Trustees, and guests have come together to celebrate the opening of this academic year. Convocation itself can mean any kind of large gathering, but in higher ed, as Betsy noted, it's an opportunity for us to convene at the beginning of an academic year, a chance to welcome back, to join tradition and ritual, which I hope most of you participated in outside, and come together as a community, sharing friendship, inspiration, and joy. And so it's a remarkable opportunity to take the time and create some space to be able to do this with each other. I hope you'll all just take a minute to express gratitude for the many people at Naropa that worked so hard to organize this day. Especially thanks to Jovanina Jobson and Charlotta Rotterdam. The excellent drumming by Sean Goodman. and others for keeping the law song, this tradition, alive. This is a smoke offering that, on the one hand, I think firmly grounds us to our founding heritage, and at the same time, if you looked up a little bit, it dissolves Naropa into a wide open future. And it's that dissolution, I think, which is really the power of this place and the opportunity that we have in front of us. Many of you have seen the video of the first Naropa Convocation, which was in the summer of 1974, down the road at the old bus barn on Arapahoe and Broadway. And it was at that time that our founder, Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche, stated a concern and an intention. The concern was that higher education, both in the West and in the East, was at risk of losing its sacred traditions, traditions that gave co-equal emphasis to personal growth, gaining wisdom and knowledge, and sparking students in the motivation to live a life that's framed by service, regardless of vocational pathway. Trungpa Rinpoche urged those pioneering students and faculty in that summer to take care that the pilot light, which represented the power of higher education, not be extinguished. And I think we can say that for the last 48 years, this community of scholars and practitioners have taken those words to heart and have maintained the power of that pilot light ever since. And so much gratitude for the incredible effort that it's taken to get us to this place. We were invited in 1974 to celebrate that in the mid-20th century, we had the good fortune to live in a world, certainly not a world free from suffering, of course, but a world where traditions of contemplative pedagogy built on a foundation of mindfulness and compassion, along with the development of insight, might be integrated into the Western academic accomplishments, which were epitomized by the liberal arts and by creative process. And while it's true that Naropa was founded, and we say so in various statements that we make, as a place that aspired to bring Eastern contemplative traditions together with Western academic training, there's actually a lot more complexity than that statement itself might suggest. In fact, there are worldwide traditions found in all cultures and all communities in which contemplative practice and the appreciation of the sacred are joined with equally universal traditions of rigorous academic study, artistic expression, research, and service learning. So I hope you can see that despite what we say in our short sound bites, Naropa's mission is not neatly divided into East and West. It's actually an international and intersectional mission completely. We aspire here at Naropa to be a place of integration and appreciation, where challenging conventional thinking is welcomed and celebrated, even if it's messy. We strive to be a place where challenge comes not only from debate and exchange based on logical mind, but also from practicing contemplative disciplines, learning how to be kind to ourselves and others, how to be in the world with both fearlessness and kindness, and how to experience embodied realizations. As I noted, this can be messy, it can be inspiring, and we welcome all members of the Naropa community to join in this mutual exploration. To meet its potential, the work can't be an insular process limited to the members of this privileged community. From this privileged place, we can't lose sight of the fact that we're part of a world which remains experiencing great poverty and injustice, environmental degradation, ethnic, racial, gender, and religious bias. And as if that's not enough, obviously, we are sharing the uncertainty and the personal and community struggles brought about over the last year and a half by the pandemic. Much has been said about the effect of our COVID experiences, but one thing that I think is worth calling out, at least I've been thinking a lot about, is how much we've become disconnected from one another. How much we now view so many people around us from a place of concern for our safety and the safety of our loved ones, and not first as friends and colleagues and neighbors. I'm not suggesting that that shift in perspective was intentional, but I think it's real. And it's not the first time we've experienced as a society this kind of challenge. We can look 100 years ago or more, people living with tuberculosis and how they were treated, or more recently, the social shunning of people living with HIV/AIDS. In those cases, just as now, what began as an understandable need to care for the physical health of the greater society became fodder for much more insidious reactions. People got TB because they were too poor to afford sanitation. They got AIDS because they were gay, black, brown. The social impact of COVID isn't written yet, but I suggest it's going to include the fact that those people who chose to serve or who had no economic option but to serve will somehow bear a disproportionate blame for the impact of the disease. Hopefully that doesn't happen, but history being what it is, I think we're going to see that. What's clear to me is that the reality of the past 18 months has resulted in the need for all of us to re-energize our relationship muscles, whatever those are, improve the ways to express compassion for one another, to manifest patience rather than irritation, to care for a wider world after so much time building psychological walls of protection. So it's a statement. We'll see how this unfolds. It is, however, a joy to be back together in 3 dimensions for those, I think it's 3 dimensions. For those of us in the room, there's some 4th dimension people there I can feel. And virtually for so many others who are joining us online. So regardless of the vehicle the communication means, I hope that we'll all remember to be kind and appreciate how powerful the simple act of giving each other a break can mean to this re-entry. You're going to soon have an opportunity to hear from my colleague, Regina Smith, who's our first Vice President for Mission, Culture, and Inclusive Community. Yesterday, Regina gently encouraged me to not upstage her by going on too long about her critical work. And I thought a lot about it, and I am almost willing to do that, but not completely. However, I'm going to give you a lot of space. And not completely is sort of been somewhat of a through line for the now 10th Convocation address that I've been privileged to offer as Naropa president. Saturday, October 28th, will represent 58 years since 250,000 people accepted the call by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. to convene in Washington and bear witness to the need to continue a nonviolent, focused, and fearless war on racism, systemic oppression, and poverty. And at each of my convocations, I've been moved not just to honor Dr. King's work, but to illuminate a part of his talk that isn't as frequently noted. I bring this to our convocation not just as a crucial reminder of the impact of racism and oppression on our society, but also so that we can remember what framed the gestation period of this Naropa University. We didn't just come out of nothing. We came out of something, a set of ingredients that collided and gave birth to Naropa. I think for most of us from the time we were young, we learned that in the 1963 march, Dr. King's famous offering was the way in which he shared his dream and invited every one of us to join in that powerful visualization. But what struck me then as a budding teenage activist and still strikes me today as an elder taking stock of my own successes and regrets is this exhortation from Dr. King. We also come to this hallowed spot to remind America of the fierce urgency of now. This is no time to engage in the luxury of cooling off or to take the tranquilizing drug of gradualism. Contemplating those words themselves is a deep practice. For example, how do we embody fierceness which is not fueled by anger, or urgency which doesn't reject deliberation and patience? I believe that looking at progress over the almost 6 decades since the prophetic voice that we heard in 1963 should cause us all to feel that we have seriously depleted our patience bank account. And yet, major accomplishments did take place. Civil Rights Act of 1964, the closing of the life expectancy gap between black and brown people with those of their white neighbors, some economic improvements that economists can point to in marginalized communities and so on. And yet, while the ink was still drying on the Civil Rights Act in 1964, tens of thousands of young men, significantly black, brown, and poor white, were being sent to war in Vietnam, disproportionately bearing the national burden of an ill-conceived strategy, and showing the life and death impact of wealth and power disparity. So the fact is, that was the case now, and I will argue that in many ways that's the case today. The damage to our environment was becoming much more clearly seen as a direct result of our consumerism. Younger activists, led by students, were increasingly demanding greater accountability of those in positions of leadership and power. And all of that, at the same time, most of the inhabitants of our world were still barely able to subsist, and that remains the case today. A few short years before the March in Washington, a political and religious refugee emerged from Tibet. He raised his gaze to a bigger world, first in India, then in the United Kingdom, and then ultimately landing in North America. And it was a few short years following the March in Washington that Malcolm X, that Dr. King, and Robert Kennedy were assassinated, illuminating the imperative to take the greed, the aggression, and the ignorance that surrounded us, and to seek the skillful means by which we could transmute such violence and oppression into justice and compassion. All that fueled the bubbling cauldron from which Naropa emerged in 1974. Without question, there's much about Naropa today in 2021 which differs from that founding time, and that's a good thing. It's a testament to the generations of students, faculty, and staff whose commitment and brilliance consistently has informed our evolution and our continued relevance to the world. But there's also some consistency that's maintained by the connection to our traditions and the willingness to take a long view of Naropa's benefit to the world. From the outset, Naropa alumni have shared their skills and caring as counselors and therapists, chaplains, teachers, writers, poets, actors, musicians, practitioners of the fine arts, environmental activists, entrepreneurs, religious scholars, and practitioners, and so many more ways of expressing themselves and what they learned from being at this place. Their individual stories weave together to become the collective story of Naropa. And I look forward to the fact that you are going to add your own threads to this weaving. And the unique expressions of their wisdom and their skill is what enriches the collective impact of our university. Sometimes we're asked for data regarding our graduates, and it's seen, I guess, as a sign of maturity that we can provide that information in the form of numbers and instead of anecdotes. I actually am a big believer that the anecdotes is where the power is. And so regardless of whether we're now keeping track of tens of thousands rather than hundreds or thousands of graduates, the individual stories are still the stories that we need to tell and that we need to keep alive. And calling that data is, I think, a perfectly good way to present it to anybody that asks. It's a joy for me to welcome all of you, especially the new students, faculty, and staff who bring so much, will gain so much, and will join with the generations of those who preceded you in realizing the dual aspirations to transform yourself and transform the world. I wish you all the best as we start our new year together, good health, and look forward to seeing you over the course of the next year. Thanks.
I keep getting lost in the beautiful words of my colleagues as I marinate in my thought sauces sitting there, and I keep forgetting I need to come up and introduce the next person. But there's been beautiful things said so far, and I know there will continue to be beautiful things said by my colleagues. So I'm so appreciative for them. So next, I would love to welcome Sue West, who serves as our Chief Academic Officer and Vice President for Academic Affairs.
Well, Chuck had it really big, and I'm going to dial it in. Today, in opening the school year, my talk is dedicated to raising the life force, or the lungta. When I ring this bell, please clap or snap your fingers or make a sound, okay? Let's begin. Good afternoon and salutations. Welcome to the 2021-2022 school year. A sincere welcome to all new and returning adjunct faculty, too many to name here. I'm reversing the system, right? See that? Can you please stand? Adjunct faculty. Thank you for teaching here. Welcome to all new and returning instructors. Can you stand so we can acknowledge you? Thank you for teaching here. Welcome to the core faculty candidates. Please stand. When I give a brief introduction, these are the new core faculty. Dr. Michelle Saltis, are you here today? Not here. So I'm going to introduce Dr. Michelle Saltis. She joins the Master of Arts program in Clinical Mental Health Counseling with a concentration in contemplative psychotherapy and Buddhist psychology. Dr. Michelle Saltis is a licensed professional counselor, registered play therapist, and has their PhD in counselor education and supervision from the University of Northern Colorado. Dr. Saltis is a queer, non-binary, white, mostly able-bodied, neurodivergent, middle-class spiritual counselor, supervisor, researcher, and educator who focuses on issues surrounding social justice and diversity, queer and trans folk, and creativity. Welcome, Dr. Saltis. Next is a hybrid faculty, Dr. John Dowdy-Berry, our new core faculty candidate, who hopefully is online watching this. And she joins the Master of Arts program in Clinical Mental Health Counseling with a concentration in mindfulness-based transpersonal counseling hybrid program. Dr. John Dowdy-Berry has 20 years of experience as a counselor, faculty member, researcher, university administrator, and nationally recognized leader in diversity, equity, and inclusion. She is trained in mindfulness-based counseling, breathing exercises, yoga, and meditation to help those with eating disorders, depression, and anxiety. Dr. Dowdy-Berry is a certified rehabilitation counselor with postdoctoral training in psychiatry and public health from Yale University School of Medicine. Dr. Dowdy-Berry has researched and worked with individuals who are coping with long-term physical illnesses such as multiple sclerosis, substance abuse, HIV/AIDS, and clients with great physical pain, and is an advocate for those with disabilities. Let's welcome Dr. Dowdy-Berry. Incidentally, she made me pinky swear with her after I offered her the position that I would give her a hug when I see her. And finally, I'd like to announce our Graduate School of Counseling Psychology Dean, Dr. Linda Black. Please stand while I give a brief introduction. Dr. Linda Black is a professor of counselor education and supervisor for 24 plus years at the University of Northern Colorado. She serves as the co-editor of Counseling Education and Supervision Journal, is a member of the Colorado Coalition for the Children's Mental Health and the Colorado Crisis Education and Response Network. Dr. Black has served as an associate provost and dean, where she supported 200 graduate faculty, 3,000 graduate students, and over 100 graduate programs and certificates. Dr. Black's scholarly work focuses on counselor education, oppression, privilege, and mentoring. In 2020, she published her first book titled Crisis, Trauma, and Disaster Counseling, a Clinician's Guide. Thank you, Linda. An exuberant thank you to all faculty for bringing your brilliance here to Naropa. Can everyone else please stand? I'd like to acknowledge all of you. Board members, faculty, staff, and students, welcome. Those who have stepped into leadership and special projects, thank you. To those who have gone the extra mile to help fellow humans and each other through this extraordinary time of pandemic, shifting schedules and protocols, welcome. We are here against all odds of human suffering and tremendous resilience and love. Welcome, students. I just want to say I'm available anytime to support you. All of us are here. All of us that are here have bravery and the conviction to be of benefit. We amplify the life force. We are here to magnify goodness. Naropa University invites us to co-create an enlightened society. This is at the core of our mission. We are here to raise the lungta, the life force, life essence, charisma, intangible inner well-being. When the lungta is running high, one is healthy, lucky, successful, and prosperous. There are many who raise the lungta or life force, and there's many ways. You can clap, bell, ring a bell, move, jump. I like to bounce. To counter dullness, sing or make a sound. Coming here is a call to be altered, to live as though everything is relevant. Don't wait for Naropa or anything to define you. Do it now. Be you now. We raise the consciousness of all we do while actively creating a just society. To close, here's a quote from my painting teacher, Enrique Martinez Celaya. There is a tendency for us to think that to be a prophet or to do anything grand, you have to have a special gift, to be someone called for. And I think ultimately what really matters is the resolve to want to do it, to give your life to that which you consider important. And if you have no skills to offer, it is all the more amazing that you do it, the more remarkable. I wish you all good health, an amplified life force, joy, love, and to evolve to be the best that you can be. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Sue. And I am going to have that in my head now for the rest of this week. And then next Monday, I'm going to feel, I'm going to think of your up here with that life force, because that's how I feel on Monday. But I appreciate your words and the energies that you're putting out for the start of this new year. Now I have the honor of introducing Regina Smith, who President Leaf alluded to a little bit earlier, but Regina Smith serves as the Vice President for Mission, Culture, and Inclusive Community, also known as MCIC. So if we could get a round of applause for to welcome Regina. Good afternoon. One of the things that I am proudest of and boast the most about is that I was a student here at Naropa University. I graduated in 2012 from the Contemplative Psychotherapy and Buddhist Psychology program. The name has changed, so I'm like, oh yeah, let me get it right. Another way that you could tell that I graduated from Naropa is that when I understood that we were about to have a stay-at-home order in Boulder, everyone else ran out to grocery stores and tried to get toilet paper and medication. I went to the crystal store up the street, made sure I had all the appropriate crystals for my space and to protect my family and our health. I went and bought art supplies so that I could journal and collage. So that's how you could tell I graduated from Naropa. One of the things I also got when I knew we were going into lockdown was Eckhart Tolle's book, A New Earth, so that I could inspire myself in the many, many baths that I took during the lockdown. I was like in the bathtub the entire pandemic, just trying to regulate. But one of the quotations that stood out to me was this one. When faced with a radical crisis, when the old way of being in the world, of interacting with each other and with the realm of nature doesn't work anymore, when survival is threatened by seemingly insurmountable problems, an individual life form or species will either die or become extinct, or rise above the limitations of its conditions through an evolutionary leap. So I don't know how you're feeling about the moment that we're living in, but with an ongoing global pandemic, a dwindling amount of time to deal with the climate crisis, increasing political polarization, and daily proof that we still have not reckoned with both the historical and the current lack of racial justice and equity in this country, I would say we are facing a radical crisis. And that the old way of being in the world and of interacting with each other in the realm of nature isn't working. And that our survival is indeed threatened, and that we are either going to become extinct or evolve. And though I've never thought of Naropa in quite this way before, it does seem like the reason that we exist is to co-create with you a new way of being in the world, a socially just, conflict positive, compassionate, and regenerative way of caring for each other and for our planetary home. I've never really looked at Naropa as humanity's hope for survival before, but I am the mother of a 5-year-old, and we watch a lot of Star Wars. So all of a sudden, I'm really into like saving the planet. So I lead a newly created division of mission, culture, and inclusive community. And we work tirelessly to support Naropa in living this mission and to building a bridge between what Naropa has been, what Naropa is today, and what Naropa needs to become if we are to help humanity evolve. So one thing I've learned, let me not say I've learned this, I am still learning, is that we cannot do any of this work by ourselves. So even though my education at Naropa sent me on a very individual inward journey, it also is a journey on learning how to shift from being an I to being a we. So every day I have to remind myself that it is not just on me, it is on all of us. And if all of us are going to do it, then I need to learn how to move from being a me to being an us. So some of us who work in MCIC, and they may or may not be physically present, are Dr. Amanda Aguilera. She's the senior director of MCIC, and she's my partner in creating a more just, equitable, diverse, and inclusive Naropa. And in addition, she leads one of our most important efforts, which is to become the first restorative university. If we want to see a world in which different needs, beliefs, and opinions
don't escalate to policies and punishments which dehumanize, we have to start with transforming our very own community, which means building the awareness and the skills for being in conflict. If we're going to have diversity, conflict is inevitable. So learning how to do conflict healthy is part of what we're working on. We have also recently integrated our work towards sustainability with the living legacy of Joanna Macy to create the Joanna Macy Center for Resilience and Regeneration, led by the ever lovely and loving director, Michael Bauer, and faculty lead, Sherry Elms. In addition, we house CASE, the Center for the Advancement of Contemplative Education, where Director Charlotta Rotterdam, who is here, and Program Manager Carla Mueller lead our community in deepening into our contemplative roots and in defining both the present and the future of what it means to educate the contemplative, compassionate warriors we need for the Great Turning. And last but definitely not least, the glue that keeps us all together and translates this vision into action is my beloved friend and colleague, Sean Goodman. So this team, along with input and critical feedback from students, staff, faculty, and our board, has spent the last 2 years working to refine our stated purpose, mission, vision, and values so that they are more clear and precise, and so that Naropa's wisdom can pierce into the places that need it most. These guiding statements that I am about to share with you will now be called our community compass and will serve to keep us pointed in the direction we need to go and as guide points when we are lost and we inevitably stray from the past. You will also be able to read these outside on the lawn. If you didn't already see them, please do read them and reflect on them, and let them be more than words that just go in one ear and out the other, but may they be seeds that you plant in your heart. So our purpose, which answers the question of why we matter and why we exist. We exist to cultivate compassionate, creative, and critical engagement with an ever-changing world through the discipline of contemplative education. Our vision expresses what the world will look like when Naropa University, not if, but when Naropa University achieves its mission. Naropa envisions an interconnected global community that embodies an everlasting commitment to personal actions, interpersonal relations, and vocations, which promote individual, social, and ecological liberation and well-being. Our mission, which is the near-term goal that we strive to accomplish, we commit to create a more just and regenerative world by nurturing student insight and awareness, courage, and compassion. Through contemplative pedagogy, critical thinking, and active engagement, we offer students the skills they need to authentically engage as effective, mindful leaders. And now I'm going to read our value statements. So these are the beliefs that guide the university forward and the commitments we embody as part of this community. Number 1, to foster lifelong learning, meaningful lives, and success for students and graduates. Number 2, to expand our leading edge of contemplative education that embraces inner discovery and learning. Number 3, to build a culture of belonging and challenge systems of oppression that undermine human dignity. Number 4, to awaken and renew ecological interconnection and commit to regenerative practices, choices, and leadership. Number 5, to cultivate capacity for authentic and trusting relationships and practice radical compassion. Number 6, to champion active responsibility and courageous, effective, and inspired engagement with the world. Number 7, to invoke artistic expression of the full human experience, through creative awareness. So I hope that you will celebrate with me that we are all a part of a community that lives by these values and that seeks to create the kind of world that will evolve and survive past the current crisis that we are in. I look forward to being on that journey with you.
Thank you, Regina. I'm still thinking about the seeds in the heart imagery. That really touched me, so thank you for that. And I'm really excited about the community compass, and I really encourage everyone to take some time to review the imagery out on the lawn, on the green, but we also have some here in the pavilion as well, and you're gonna see those around campus in the coming weeks. Well, now I have the honor and privilege to introduce Lee Worley to lead us in the spontaneous poem. Professor Emerita Lee Worley was a founding faculty member of Naropa Institute. She was invited by Trogam Trungpa to create the Theater Studies Department and later worked with other faculty to develop a BA in Inter-Arts Studies. With Richard Brown, Lee co-developed an MA in Contemplative Education, one of the first low residency programs, within which she taught presence and teaching and Maitri space awareness. Lee is one of a handful of people holding the legacy of Trogam Trungpa's teachings called Mudra, space awareness, and continues to lead practice groups in Europe and North America. She's the author of 2 books, Coming from Nothing, The Sacred Art of Acting and Teaching Presence, Field Notes for Players. She currently studies Tibetan Buddhism under the guidance of Dzogchen Rinpoche, who gave her the title of Matra, or Spiritual Friends, one of only 4 Western teachers to hold this position with him. We are most grateful for Professor Worley's 44 years of service to Naropa and that she's agreed to join us today. Can we have a very warm welcome for Professor Worley.
Hi. Some things never change. This thing. For a person who thinks that the whole body is what should be present, this thing has always been an interesting challenge. I'm so honored to be with you today, and a little bit nervous, and I hope you are too, because we're going to build this year's spontaneous poem together. Maybe next year we'll even have names in the basket from all over our world. But for now, thank you so much for being willing to be a spontaneous speaker of this collaborative event. Many of you, I think, have been here before and know something about it, but I think I need to say a little bit before we launch in. It's a tradition, a long-standing tradition that was developed here under the guidance of Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche, our founder. And I think his idea for it was to give us a little bit of a spark of coming from nothing, the name of my book. But it's really not nothing that you're coming from. But maybe we should think about coming from this moment. So as we expand these wonderful ideas that everybody's been sharing with us today, it no longer makes any sense to say good morning or good afternoon. So we've started saying good moment. It works. It sounds a little weird, but we'll get used to it. So good moment means now, right? Now, right now with no past, no future, right now. Present, right now. At Naropa, and I don't know if it's still true or not, there used to be a slogan called first thought, best thought. But the thing about first thought, best thought is usually our first thought is, oh my God, I have to do this thing now. Oh, I don't have anything to say. Oh, what did I do that for? So I don't think first thought is exactly the right thing. We changed it to fresh thought, best thought. And in fresh thought, what was being said about coming from being an I to being a we or an us is honored. So in this spontaneous poem, you may or may not be the person whose name is called, but we're all making this spontaneous good moment together. I'll pull a name. The person whose name it is should stand and take a good moment for yourself, standing, feeling the earth below you and the sky above you and us around you and the moment, and speak for that, not for yourself. I think there's someone who's going to be writing down. Oh, there she is. And we also have Joan Anderson, another faculty member who lives in southern Colorado. Hello, Joan, if you're watching. I just saw her recently. She's going to make a calligraphy of this spontaneous poem. And we'll hang it somewhere. There's still room on a wall or two somewhere. What's going to happen when we get old? Won't have any room for poems, but you probably have seen them around. It's usual to have the calligraphy done right at the moment in which the spontaneous poem is arising. So maybe that's happening. Just open up your awareness and include Joan in southern Colorado, and include all those people who I meant to say hello to out there. And let's see, did I have anything else to say? Fairly obvious, right? Everything's fairly clear. Those of you who were courageous and put your names in the basket, thank you. And those of you who didn't, please don't fall asleep. Please share your openness, your awareness, your lungta with those of us who are going to be doing this. And to follow in line with what's been happening today with these beautiful quotes from so many wise people, I thought I would read a little, very short one, which seems to be useful, from our founder, Chogyam Trungpa, about doing this process. So here we go. Our message is simply one of appreciating the nature of things as they are and expressing it without any struggle of thoughts and fears. We give up aggression, both toward ourselves, that we have to make a special effort to impress people, and toward others, that we can put something over on them. Oh. I forgot to say, when your name is called, stand up. Or did I say that? Amy Ripa. I hope I said that right. Amy? Is she standing up? Speak, wave something I can't see. No. Okay, never mind. Ada. Ada? Ah.
Enjoy the metamorphosis.
Enjoy the metamorphosis.
Yes.
Thank you. Might be good if we waited on the applause to sort of keep the space a little bit open. But we mean well, but we'll wait. Timothy. Is there a microphone coming, Timothy?
Traverse the open path.
Could you say that again? I missed the first word.
Traverse the open path.
Ah, traverse the open path. Misty.
Like wings of a bird, feel yourself now.
Like wings of a bird, feel yourself now. This is halfway. Gemma.
Breathe in the now. Did you not hear it? Breathe in the now.
Breathe in the now. Maybe we could hear the first 4 lines as we move towards the second 4 lines.
Enjoy the metamorphosis. Traverse the open path. Like wings of a bird, feel yourself now. Breathe in the now.
Catherine T. I'm not seeing Catherine T. I guess. Where did these people go? Oh boy. Thankfulness for self.
thought we were writing a line in there, so
Is that your line?
yes.
Oh, well, speak it.
Thankfulness for self.
Thank you. Tommy. Tommy. It's not. All right. Aaron Crow.
Redefine reality.
Redefine reality. How many lines is that? Six. Okay, so we have two more. No pressure. Caitlin. Yeah, Caitlin.
With rapturous awareness.
I didn't hear the first word, I think.
Rapturous awareness.
Rapturous awareness. Don't all speak at once. Sue. Wait for your mic.
Get on with it. Amplify the life force.
Get on with it. Amplify the life force. Not bad, huh? So, will you like to read the whole thing?
Enjoy the metamorphosis. Traverse the open path. Like wings of a bird, feel yourself now. Breathe in the now. Thankfulness for self. Redefine reality with rapturous awareness. Get on with it. Amplify the life force.
Have a great year.
I absolutely love this tradition that we have here in this community, and I've shared some of my inspiration since I joined Naropa 6 months ago, but another one is seeing some of the previous spontaneous poems hanging around campus. I've had a chance to see some of them, and they're beautiful, so I hope you all get a chance to see them as well, whether you're a new student or a continuing student. They're all over campus, in the halls, and in the classrooms, and in the spaces that we each are spending our time together in community with. Okay, so now we have come to the end of our time together, and I would like to invite President Leaf up to do a closing with us, and immediately after this, we're going to invite everyone to go out into the green where we have some light refreshments. So if we could have a warm welcome again for President Leaf.
So I'm going to close by ringing the gong 3 times, and then we'll bow together. Impermanence aside, I'd like you to consider that these 3 sounds of the gong are going to stay with you throughout your journey at Naropa. And so for some of you, you may come full circle when you walk across the stage and receive a diploma sometime in the future. For others of you, when it's your 10th or 20th or 30th anniversary as a faculty member or as a staff member. But in any case, this will keep reverberating if you allow it to within us and give us something that we can share together as a community. So that is an invitation. Thanks, everyone.